Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am building something relatively quickly. I've been away from my studio for several days celebrating the holidays with my family and haven't had a lot of time to build anything. I've put out a build every Friday for the past almost 7 years now, so I didn't really want to break that streak. So I was trying to think of something I could build that was relatively small, that I could build relatively fast. As I was visiting my brothers over the holidays, my younger brother had just gone to a Tenacious D concert, and he bought my older brother some merch from that concert as a Christmas gift, and that was kind of in the close back of my mind as I was trying to think of ideas. It popped up. Tenacious D is a band featuring Jack Black and Kyle Gass, and they made a movie not too long ago, 2006, called Pick of Destiny. In that movie, they are searching for this guitar pick that will instantly make them better musicians. So I thought, why not make that? Small, simple, could be done in a couple hours. Sounds like an idea. Today, we are making the Pick of Destiny. Let's get to building. The image of the pick was easy enough to find, and I even went back and rewatched the movie to refresh my memory. I start by drawing the image onto some parchment paper, then smush Sculpey into the outline to get the shape right. I sculpt the polymer clay with various sculpting tools and try and get it relatively close to my reference image. Once I'm happy with the sculpt, I heat my oven up to 275 degrees and let it bake for 15 minutes as per the instructions on the Sculpey box. Now that the pick has been baked, I can go in with some files, a hobby knife, and some sandpaper to refine the pick before casting. You really can get to a finished item pretty quickly using polymer clay. From start to finish, it took me maybe 35 minutes. Now I'm ready to mold my pick. I hot glue down the sculpt onto a piece of corrugated plastic and then glue a cup around it for the mold walls. I'm going to use some silicone rubber for the mold. Not exactly sure what brand this is. I did a comparison video for a bunch of different brands a while back, and this is what's left over. I'll link the video down below in the description if you want to go watch it. It goes in way more detail. You mix equal parts A and B, then pour it into your sculpt. Don't forget to spray some mold release in before pouring it so that it pulls out easier when it's cured. I pour in the mold, hit the sides to coerce the air bubbles out, and then let it set up for about 6 hours. It is now Thursday morning and I'm getting closer and closer to my deadline here. I'm ready to demold my sculpt and start casting. I trim up the flashing of where the silicone seeped under the pick, spray some mold release in the new mold, and get ready for my first pour. I am using Smooth Cast 300 for my first pull. It's also an equal parts A and B mix that sets up in about 10 minutes, so you have to mix and pour pretty quickly. It does create an exothermic reaction while curing, getting up to about 150 degrees or so, and gases are also released, so make sure to wear gloves, eye protection, and work in a well ventilated area to protect yourself. Anytime I pour resin, I always have extra mold standing by just in case I mix up too much. This way nothing gets wasted because Smooth Cast 300 is not cheap. As it sets, it will go from clear to white. I like to wait an additional 5 to 10 minutes after it cures to let the temperature drop back down to normal. I know it looks immediate in the video, but the time jumps ahead. It is several minutes later. Another method you could use to cast your items is called cold casting. This is where you dust the inside of your mold with a pigment or powder like mica, then pour in your resin after. It'll make the casting give the appearance of a solid metal or color other than the resin default color. I'm using a mixture of green mica powders that I have in this kit, spreading it around with a chip brush, and then just like the steps before, cast the resin behind it. When you pull the cast from the mold, you'll have a nice colored surface that could potentially save you time on your paint job later. This technique is really great to use on products you want to look metallic. The major drawback is that you can't really sand or clean up this product afterwards, so make sure your mold is exactly how you want the finished surface to be, and keep your fingers crossed you don't get bubbles. Of course, now that I have tried 2 different methods, I began to fall down a rabbit hole and see what else I could cast out of this mold. A simple, cheaper option would be hot glue. I picked up some hot glue in various colors and luckily had some in a bright green like what the pick actually is supposed to be. Now I just squeeze it into the mold, doing my best to fill all the nooks and crannies within the sculpt. You could go back and fill any voids after demolding it if you need to, but it may actually look kind of cool for this casting to be less than perfect. This method only takes a couple of minutes, it's pennies in material cost, and with it being colored hot glue, it means one less step in painting. Now, some of you new to the channel may not know that I actually got started here on YouTube making videos for a company called Polyplastics. They're a company that makes several different products, one of which is this moldable thermoplastic. I melt the beads into a glass bowl. You could also melt it with hot water. Then I mix in a couple of pellets to get my desired color, and then push the material into the mold. Similar to the hot glue, I'm filling in the mold with a non-liquid blindly, which means I could have parts that don't get into the cracks. The nice thing about this method is that if I don't like the way it looks, I can simply just heat it back up and try again. My white castings and the original Sculpey get a solid base coat of black spray paint. Just like with everything in the crafting world, there are dozens of ways you can approach each step. The trick is to find methods that you like the most, or the method that fits the outcome that you want. With my black painted picks, I try a couple of different painting approaches. The first one I dry brush with multiple lighter passes of acrylic paint. My second one, I paint the whole thing a solid green and then will come back with washes later. For the ones that are already green, I simply move on to black washes in the crevices and wiping off the high points with a paper towel. I paint most of them in some variation of these 3 methods and end up with 6 picks that look pretty similar in the end result. finished. Here is the end result. I did make 6 of them for no particular reason other than just to try different materials, different techniques, different processes. They turned out really good. I think my favorite is probably the hot glue. It may not be the most durable of the 6 that I made, but I think it definitely kind of gives off that glowiness almost, just because it's already that specific color. Probably the most durable that could maybe be used for actually picking a guitar would be the thermoplastic one. I really like that I have a mold now that would be something easy, something small that I could cast like extra resin into, like what I did with that Viking stuff that you saw on the screen when I was casting. But yeah, maybe you will try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to make something from one of your favorite bands, and rock on. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some...
That was the best thing I have ever seen.
And inevitably, they're gonna ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. I guess I need to start a band or something. At least test out the magical abilities of this thing, so peace out.
If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.